Welcome to episode 88 of New Money Talks.
That's perfect. That happened on the first take. We got it. There we go. It's like nobody knows. I'm excited. We have Will Nitze. Did I say that right?
There you
Perfect. Will Nitze is one of the founders of. Are you the only founder, or do you have a co-founder of IQBAR?
Sole founder.
Sole founder of IQBAR. Very, very awesome brand. I actually heard you speak in Miami 2 weeks ago. A little background on the podcast too. We haven't done an episode in 3 months, so I'm excited to have you as the breaking point here. What we're going to do, we're going to be popping out one of these every single week going forward. So I'm happy. I think you're the one that's going to kind of reignite this going. But I like to just kind of start off with, usually I ask this question: if you're in a bar, say you're in a bar in New York City, and someone random walks up to you and says, "Hey, Will, what do you do? Like, who's Will?" I'm just curious how you would describe yourself, and for like the audience, kind of give a 2-minute spiel on who Will is.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer would be I'm an entrepreneur. If I was trying to be clever, I would say I'm an opportunist, which is kind of stealing the line of a guy named Sam Zell, who's like I don't know if you're familiar with him, but a billionaire real estate guy, and I always loved that line of his. But yeah, I'm an entrepreneur in the consumer goods space. And I would say that before I would say I'm a food and bev entrepreneur, because I mean, the food and bev piece is sort of incidental. I could be just as happy selling anything that is a tangible and in the consumer space that, adds value to people's lives. But it just so happened to be bars. But yeah, I own a company called IQBAR that I started in 2018, Jan of 2018, that so we sell plant protein bars, but we also now do electrolyte mixes and instant coffees as well. But the overall sort of cohesive through line across all of them is it's brain and body nutrition. So there are things that are good for your brain and your body and everything we make.
Awesome. And it's kind of funny, we've only talked for a few minutes here, and I could tell you're a very humble, quietish person. But right before we started recording, you told me what you guys are on track to do in revenue this year, and I've looked up how many doors you guys are in retail. If you can just share with the audience, I kind of want to set a precedent of what kind of founder you are and what kind of business you're running too. So
yeah, I mean our goal this year is 125 to 130 million in net revenue, which is up from roughly 60 last year. So I mean we try to double every year.
You doubled in a year.
Our CAGR, our compound annual growth rate, is over 100% across the last 7 years. So we more than double every year for 7 straight years.
Wow, that's insane.
So that's always our goal. Like, we start the year and we're like, a lot of people will do what's called bottoms up. So they're just like, all right, I'm in this many doors, and here's my velocity per door, and here's how much I think I can grow, and here's my bottoms up estimate for our target for net revenue. We do a very different thing, which is we say, okay, what if we wanted to double again? How would we do that? And then we figure out how to do that. So we prefer the tops down approach.
I kind of want to, I've not heard that much, and I kind of like it because obviously you know what you're doing. You've done it for 7 years. You've doubled every year. I'm curious, like last year you did 60 million around there. What's the conversation like? How do I get to 120 this year? I'm going to start with that because that's just very interesting to me.
I mean, that is the question. And I mean, you just look at the chess pieces on the chessboard, right? Which is, we're in XYZ retailers. We're not in other retailers. These are our online accounts. These are our product lines. Here's the revenue and profit breakdown. Oh, by the way, all this has to be done profitably, right? So it's not just like grow at all costs. We need
have you raised a lot of money?
I don't know. A lot is relative. We raised 9.5-ish million across 4 different fundraising rounds. But no, I mean, we've raised very little money relative to our size and relative to what our peers have raised. Because I mean, it's just such a cash flow intensive business and inventory intensive business. I mean, we have to be, especially the way we do it. We manage our entire supply chain, so we have $10+ million of ingredients sitting on our balance sheet at any time, just sitting in a warehouse. So it's very, very hard to finance a business like ours. So yeah, we set that crazy goal of how do we double and then also do that profitably. And then, yeah, you just look at the chess pieces on the chessboard, and there's of course, it's like any pipeline. If you've ever been in sales, you have a pipeline and you have the
Yep.
probability that you can close account A, and let's say that's 20%. And then you have probability you can close account B, and that's 40%. And the size of the prize for A is this, and the size of the prize for B is that. And it's just basic math, and then just elbow grease once we're comfortable getting there any way that we can. So we're not like we have to take this path. So you're always like underrating everything,
Sure.
on a monthly basis. So an opportunity you thought would happen falls through, but then the inverse happens and something comes out of left field. So we're not emotional about the path it takes to get there. We're just steadfast of like, that's the North Star.
And you make it sound very easy. Like you're just like, there's a few chess pieces and execute it and we're going to get
No, it's incredibly hard. It's like consumer goods more broadly. It's simple, but it's complex to execute on at a high level.
So I think a lot of our listeners are probably in the range of probably from $1 million a year to maybe $20 million a year. And you guys were at that stage 3 years ago.
2 years. I mean, 2 years ago, we were doing 27 and a half,
Okay.
I think was 2023.
So I'm curious to get from 27 and a half to 100. What are the levers that create that?
I mean, so it's different for every business, right? For us, it was honestly more of the same on online, so D2C and Amazon. And then we saw an explosion in brick and mortar retail. That's really, so like from 0 to 27, which by the way is way harder than 27 to 127. So adding $100 million to 27 is infinitely easier than getting from 0 to 27.
Tell me why it's easier, because people wouldn't believe you. Like, I don't believe you, but
Well, you'll just have to take my word for it. But it's because you're throwing gas on fire. And what's really hard is creating fire. That's what's really hard. Throwing gas on fire is not that hard. I mean, it's hard. Everything's hard. But on a relative basis, creating fire is hard. And fire here would be a euphemism for more or less product market fit. How do you create something actually good that millions of people want, and then will like re-want and rebuy and become a part of people's daily lives and habits? That's insanely tough. And it's, oh, by the way, it also has to be different. So even though it's good, it has to be good and different. And so the first like 0 to 27, it was really eCom.
Okay.
Amazon being the biggest.
Like not even Facebook and Meta, more just Amazon.
No. I mean, no one really buys groceries on D2C sites. Like, do you? Do you buy a loaf of bread or a protein bar or a drink on a do you go to like the D2C site? No, like everyone buys it on Amazon. So this is why it's so category specific, right? You have to really, really deeply, like, forget channels. Channels are irrelevant at the start. It's just like, you have to understand how consumers shop your category. That's like the first thing any entrepreneur in the consumer goods space has to deeply understand. How do consumers shop my category, and what are all the sub considerations? So for bars, it would be like, protein and sugar and clean labelness and price point and blah blah blah. And that's very different than it is for tortilla chips, which is like, I want a certain crunch, and I want maize chips, or I want,
and no
whatever.
seed oils and stuff like that.
Yeah, no seed oil, yada yada. So it's different for every category. And by the way, I know this intimately because we play in coffee and hydration, and I know just for a fact that the buyer calculus and emotional response to shopping the categories is way, way, way different. So understand that, and then so just to make it more real, like for protein bars, I'd be a fool to think that people go shop on protein bar websites. I mean, they do, but it's like 4x verging on 5x on Amazon.
Oh wow.
Because that's just where all the shoppers are, right? Because and it's like also just intuitive too. If I'm buying, toilet paper and I can like toss in protein bars and I can toss in LaCroix and I can toss in whatever, like, of course I'm going to do that. So Amazon was always the growth engine for us, and but D2C still certainly meaningful. I mean, it's still a 8-figure business. But yeah, that was the 0 to 27 story, and then 27 and beyond was like more of that, just throwing gas on that fire, but then creating a new like channel fire, which is brick and mortar, and even within brick and mortar, understanding what are like the giant scalable channels for us, and again, our form factor, our product lines in brick and mortar.
What is up, New Money Talks fam? Super excited to tell you about our awesome sponsor today. It's actually my business, Ship Dudes. Check us out, shipdudes.com. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I've been running a 3PL for over 5 years now. We have locations all over the country and have helped amazing brands go from just an idea to shipping hundreds of thousands of orders. We've even helped brands launch into retail like Vitamin Shop, Target, Costco, and Sephora. If you're an awesome e-commerce founder, but you're not happy with your 3PL partner or your operations in general, reach out to us. Check us out, shipdudes.com. If you're a founder who's shipping orders out of their garage or their mom's basement, trust me, I've been there before. Hit us up. We can definitely help, shipdudes.com. And lastly, if you do book a time with us, make sure you put in the notes that you came from New Money Talks. We will definitely take care of you. I've even given free fulfillment months for people coming from the pod. So anyways, appreciate you all. Check us out. Sponsor for this video is Ship Dudes. And back to the pod.
So if I was selling Zyn or cigarettes or energy drinks, my channel would be most likely convenience.
Okay.
But that's not it. For us, it's club, big, mass. So Walmart,
like
Target,
and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then grocery to a lesser extent. But so, those channels within brick and mortar just like blew up from the 27 to call it 127 phase. So that's another thing though, like year to year, you have to like reinvent your business and develop all these new skills you didn't have last year, because what gets you to the finish line this year is totally different than what got you there last year. In our case, at least. I mean, some people, AG1 just hammers D2C for zero all the way to whatever, 600 million. That was not at all the case for us. We had to find new unlocks every year.
Definitely. And I'm assuming you as a founder, as a leader, had to change a bunch as well too.
Yeah, I had to change. I also I have to change my team makeup, right? Hire for new roles. I mean, we're very small, sub 10 people.
So you have like 10 million per person in a sense.
More, yeah.
If not more, yeah.
Closer to 15 million ahead.
Wow. And like, I'm actually curious, what's that makeup of a team that you do have? Like, what does each person do?
Yeah, I mean, I do most product stuff, although we just hired a head of R&D, which I'm super fired up about. My wife runs our whole e-commerce business. She's the CMO, but she's kind of like CEO of eCom just as much as she's the CMO. And then we have a COO/CFO, head of sales, a couple ops folks, and creative director. And then we have, but like, it's all of this is a bit of a misnomer because we have all these, that's like the hub, and then we have all these spokes that go out to third parties. So we have a Walmart broker, we have a Costco broker, we have a paid ads agency, we have an Amazon agency. Like, so there's probably, I don't know, 50 people working on it, but there's 10 W2s.
Gotcha.
Sub 10.
Yeah. Makes sense. And so you kept the team really lean, obviously. Probably as lean as it could be, if not. Yeah. I'm curious too, like, out of all the hires you have made over the last 7-8 years, what was the best hire that you made for the company?
My wife, by far.
That's an easy one to say. I'm sure she'll watch this. And
it's an easy one to say, but it's also true. Yeah, I mean, you're just so aligned. Obviously, you're financially aligned, you're emotionally aligned. You can be really honest with each other. Ideally, that other person is like super competent, which he is, and so yeah, that was
Definitely.
a no-brainer.
Definitely. And I'm so like you said, a big thing which people say a lot is like when you have product market fit, put fuel on the fire in a sense, right? When you say put fuel on the fire, does that mean just spend more money on Amazon, PPC, like stuff like that?
Partially, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one form of gas to throw on the fire for sure. You know, if you have a flywheel that's working from like a paid standpoint, yeah, just keep spinning that wheel faster and faster. And then by the way, like brick and mortar feeds ecom and vice versa. So doing really well on Amazon then helps you. Like Walmart came to us because they saw our Amazon business, and Costco came to us, and so it's like that segues, and you can connect dots very cleanly from ecom into brick and mortar. And then once you get brick and mortar, the two feed each other.
I see.
People see you on a shelf and then buy you on Amazon, or see you on Amazon and then find you on a shelf when they're on vacation and buy you and whatever. So the fuel on the fire on it from a brick and mortar standpoint is, I guess the fire is your pre-existing business elsewhere that you're using to convince buyers to take you into shelves. And then adding gas to that is, okay, how do I get more shelves? How do I get more retailers?
Because I don't know if I think I read this somewhere. You guys got into CVS in like the first 6 months of the business.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people are usually thinking, oh, I'm going to run D2C for a year or 2 or 3. That'll help my Amazon grow, and then that'll get me into retail. Looks like you just did the whole thing the opposite in a sense, which obviously worked out. I'm curious, how did that even happen?
Well, we came in and we came out. That was actually like the only retailer we voluntarily came out of. The drug channel, that, like I was saying earlier, if you're selling like Zyn or gum or Reese's peanut butter cups, like convenience can work great. The drug channel can work great too. It's just not a great channel for health food. But again, I was like young and dumb and early in the life cycle of the business, and I was in Boston, and they're in Providence, Rhode Island, so pretty local. And I just knew a guy who had gotten his product into CVS, and I was like, damn, that's a lot of doors. I think he had gotten into 1,500 to 2,000 doors, and I was like, could you help me? Could you intro me to the buyer? And so he introed me to the buyer, and I pitched them, and they're like, yeah, let's try it out. What I learned was, so we went into like the back corner of the store in this kind of weird esoteric set. It was like brain boosting, functional, whatever. And it was like us and like mints and pills, and like it was not a bar set. It was sort of a smorgasbord of brain related stuff.
Random stuff, yeah.
And so anyone coming in to shop for bars was not going to that set. They're going to the bar set. Add to that, like the channel itself, our consumer is not really going into. Yada yada yada. There's like 10 other reasons why it wasn't a great fit, but it was a great learning for sure. And we were like, okay, like don't say yes to everything. Don't chase down every lead.
How costly was that? Was it like a costly mistake, or it wasn't really that costly for you?
We broke even, but it was costly in the sense that we thought we had made a lot of profit, and then all of that went away. So
they make you like buy back the inventory and all that type of stuff too, and everything.
Yeah, I mean not buy back, but they just charged us back and threw out expired inventory. Yeah, so I think it was like a $750,000 deal, and we had like an excellent margin. It was like a 50+% margin, and so we thought we had made like whatever, 350K, 375K, and we didn't. And then we got hundreds of thousands in chargebacks, and so we're like, okay. And this is like the thing people say, which is so true. I mean, getting on the shelf is not the goal. Getting off the shelf is the goal. Like turning once you're in retail is the goal. So, and it's very expensive if you don't.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure those chargebacks add up really quickly. Yeah. So, right now, how many doors are you in, like across the country?
It's like always a moving target. I think it's something like 12,000.
12,000. And who manages that? I'm curious.
One person. We have a head of
Really?
sales, but again, it's the hub and spoke thing.
The
So
hub and spoke.
we have a national broker who manages like a bunch of different retailers and distributors. Right. So you're not like we're not shipping to every one of those doors. We're
Sure.
shipping to UNFI and KE and
UNFI.
La
Yep.
Perry and all these distributors who then ship out to them. We do go direct with, we ship directly to Walmart DCs and Costco
Sure.
DCs and things like that. But yeah, so one salesperson who manages like the relationships, and then we have a 3-person ops team who manages all the logistics of it,
Got it.
as well as third parties, right? So we have a third-party logistics partner who we ship to their warehouse, and then they have trucks going to Costco
Mhm.
all day, every day. Sorry, not Costco, Walmart and Sam's Club, actually, and Target, all day, every day. And so, yeah, you learn to like, there's kind of these hacks to multiply your team
Sure.
via middlemen.
Have you seen any other brands in like CPG D2C space that have had as much success as you guys had in retail? Because like it seems like I haven't heard many that have this type of success so quickly in a sense.
Yeah, I think so. I not long ago was on a trip with Chad from Groons. I think
Okay.
Groons is doing quite well. I know Bloom is doing quite well. All those are both in the greens space. I'm buddies with both the Dude Wipes guy and the Good Wipes guy, both
And
flushable
do
wipes, and they
did
both do
webster
super
interesting.
well on D2C and Amazon and brick and mortar. Um, yeah, I'm not really in the D2C world. Like
Sure.
I hang out most and talk to and ask for advice mostly from folks who are in the omni-channel world, because that's my world, and it's like D2C is only 10% of our business.
Sure.
So it's just not a good use of my time to like nerd out all day on D2C when it's 10% of my business.
That's true. When the night when not 90, but like I guess you said 55% is more retail at this point.
55% retail, and then yeah, 45% ecom, but the
Sure.
biggest ecom lever is Amazon.
Yeah. And I want to go into like what makes you successful in retail too, because I think that's probably a big question that I'm even curious of. It's like, is there a secret sauce or is there no secret sauce? Is it just good product that people want to buy over and over
I mean,
again?
there's product market fit, but product market fit is an amalgamation of like 10 things. So like for us, it would be like, are you on trend? Like how are people shopping the bar categories? What trends do they care about? And like, are you hitting on at least one of them or multiple of them? So for example, we play in like plant protein, and we're the clean label, and we're low sugar, and we're affordable. So you don't have to hit every trend. You just have to like pick a lane and do very well in that lane. So if you care about 20 grams of protein, like you're skipping over us like right away, right? We're losing
Mhm.
all of those consumers, but that's fine because we know the lane we're in is still a really big lane. And by the way, a much less competitive lane than that 20, 30 gram protein product. Like we want to be like the everyday consumer lane. We want to work for kids and women and men. We want to work for people shopping at expensive natural grocery, as well as people shopping, at,
Sure.
call it Walmart. So, um, yeah, I mean, like product market fit is all of those things. And by the way, taste, of course, taste is king.
Well, I think
But
people forget that one, the taste one, because some of this
yeah,
stuff
no,
tastes good.
nothing works if taste. And quite frankly, like if you just have an insanely good tasting product, like you really can win on that alone. Like Krispy
Mm.
Kreme is still a gigantic business. It's terrible for you, terrible label, yada yada yada. It just tastes so freaking good that it's like tastes good enough that like they can hang their hat on that all day long, and
Definitely.
it
Yeah.
and it works. Not so much in the functional food space. It's, I would argue, a lot harder because you have to taste good and hit these like insane nutritionals, and the margins are tighter, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say we win because we do like 5 things well. So all of those things I mentioned, it's not that hard to do one of them well. It's really hard to do like 3 of them well, and it's like exceptionally hard to do 5 of them well. So as just an example, let's say you want to be low sugar but also clean label. Well, you can't use like someone who wanted a dirty label would use sucralose, excuse me, which is a lab-made ingredient, and it tastes really good. And so like White Monster or Celsius or any of these energy drinks, they all have sucralose, and they made that trade-off. This tastes really good, and we're okay with it being dirty label. Now let's say again, you want to like be low sugar and be clean label. I can't use sucralose. So it's
like stevia and stuff like that.
yeah.
Monk
So
fruit,
we use stevia extract and fiber and a couple other things. Now let's say you also have to taste good, like so not like okay, like taste good. Okay, that's like a new layer. And then you need 12 grams protein. So you need to do all those things, and you need to deliver protein, which in a plant protein world, like generally plant protein doesn't taste good. It's gritty, it's yada yada. Okay, now you need to do all those things and come in at like just above $1 a bar. But now it's fucking insanely tough, right? Because all those things have to be true, and you have to be like insanely good at sourcing them, storing them, transporting them, manufacturing them in an ultra efficient way, sending out to the consumer via parcel in an ultra efficient way, paying the least amount on parcel shipment. Like, so that's why I was saying like earlier, it's a simple game, insanely complex to execute on at a high level. And this is another thing with the omni-channel thing. So D2C brands they'll just say, okay, I'll just price higher. Well, guess what? That doesn't work in retail. That's why none of these guys can cross the chasm into retail, and why none of them, their enterprise value is.
You have to be cheap in retail.
Yeah, you have to be in competitive categories.
Yeah.
Like I play in all 3 of our categories.
I might push back on that one because like deodorant, for example, like all like the natives and all of them came out and they were like stupid expensive on the shelf.
That's not protein bars. I agree.
That's
You
fair.
can, like in beauty and personal care, you absolutely can come in at a premium level and build a big business. That is certainly true. And it's not to say like you can't go macro as an example in bars. They're always a little more expensive and they have a big business. Like awesome, right? But they made a trade-off at some point. They're like, we're not going to sell in like Costco, and like they made a trade-off of volume for that higher price point. And fair enough, like great, right? We play a different game where we want to be able to we optimize for unit volume more so than anything, more so than revenue. We want to sell as many units as possible. How do you do that? You price really well, price really affordably.
Interesting. And I remember too when you were speaking in Miami, like you have to fight with like the prices of almonds or like the prices of like flour and all these things, and like that price of the bar is constantly changing in a sense too, right?
Yeah, you're like
all the ingredients.
The price you charge distributors and retailers and consumers on D2C and all that doesn't change, but yeah, your COGS change all the freaking
COGS
time.
change all the time.
Yeah, because you're buying agricultural crops. Like these things have different yields year to year. Supply and demand for those crops changes year to year. I mean, chocolate is like basically I believe it just hit a new all-time high. Coffee it doubled in the last year. Like, yeah, it's this stuff is always fluctuating. And so
always, yeah.
I mean, it's just this again, simple in concept, extremely complex to execute well. And so we have to manage 50 different inputs and the fluctuations.
Sure. I was going to ask, why did you choose to manage that when you could have had your co-man manage all this?
Yeah, but because we'll manage it better. And managing it better isn't just like, oh, that's nice to have. It's like, no, that's like 20% gross margin right there. And it's all the minutia of like just negotiating with your supplier. Who's going to negotiate better and harder? Me, like versus Janet at procurement at Copac or XYZ, right? Who's going to negotiate more frequently? Me. Who's going to look at redundant supply and run an RFP and pit supplier A against B against C? Me. Like Janet's not doing any of that. And when you add all those little ticky-tacky things up, it's just enormous implications to your gross margin. That's why we can price really competitively. Like if we didn't do that, if we did the Janet route, which like 99% of people do, well now you can't come in at like $1 a bar. It's just not going to happen. And so you're going to be stuck in only selling D2C and build a nice business that way, but you're never scaling a brick and mortar in a really mass market way.
Sure. And did you make this decision 8 years ago, or did this happen?
No, I mean
after the fact.
Admittedly, we like lucked into it, if you can even call it that. COVID forced us into this because we couldn't get materials. We couldn't get cardboard. We couldn't get fiber syrup. Like all this stuff you thought, oh, of course you can get it. There's a supplier that carries it. And no, like suppliers are like, I literally can't get you this thing that is 20% of your product or whatever it is. I can't get it to you. And that's like a really scary moment because you're like the cardinal sin of consumer goods is going out of stock. It's like the worst thing ever, right? Because if you have nothing to sell, you're bringing no money in, and why are we all here, right? So that was a crazy period with COVID and supply chain disruption. And so there's no other choice but to take it in-house and then just get on the phone and just start dialing people.
I was going to say, I'm curious, what's like the craziest shit you've had to do to source materials, especially in that time?
I don't know. It's like crazy in aggregate. There's no one thing. It's just constantly calling in favors, begging, getting someone to like pulling in a new vendor. It's just constant shifting around of things. Like we had wrappers. I think it was like 3 million wrappers were stuck at the rail yard in Nashville, Tennessee, and we couldn't get it off the freaking rail car. And we're like, short of like bribing someone, people were actually bribing people at rail yards to like release. And I think someone went to jail for this actually. But what do you do? Like you need the wrappers. So, and they're just sitting there and you can't get it. It's like the most frustrating situation of all time. So I think like for that one, we found an alternative wrapper supplier to bridge the gap time-wise until they released our container. And so, I mean, there's like different solves to everything, but that was the moment where like we need to control our supply chain.
Well, so it's crazy. Everyone thinks $100 million founder is just like raking in the dough, but like you're actually on the phone trying to make these things happen, and if they don't, the business goes away. Right.
No $100 million founder is raking in any dough in consumer good. Like you're living hand to mouth. And by the way, that's like by design. You should be, because that means you're buying as much inventory as possible to keep growing. Like you're always behind the 8 ball cash flow wise. And you're always doing shit like that. Like I do just as much of that stuff now as I did 5 years ago. Like that never ends.
It's life.
Yeah, until you sell your business or I don't know, or go out of business.
Yeah. Well, so I am curious, like, what is your goal with the business? Is this something you want to run for a very long time? Do you want to exit this? Like,
no, I definitely want to exit it. I mean, these businesses are built to exit. Like this is not a lifestyle business. This is not a low stress business. Like I don't do this for my health.
You should eat some more bars and you'll feel more healthy though. You know?
Yeah, that's the irony, right? Actually, is like all the health food. I like joke about this with people, like peers in the business or in the industry. We all make health food and we all live like the least healthy lifestyle, just professionally speaking, because you're working all the time. But no, I mean, this is a business that is built to be sold because there just are like you hit a ceiling to where having a partner is massively, it just makes sense. Like plugging their sales team into your products and jamming you into their distribution channels It's just a multiplier effect. This is more so true in beverage than food, but it's still very much true in food. I mean, can you run it independently and grow it, slow grow it for decades? Like Cliff Bar did that. And yes,
Sure.
you can. But now you're signing up for like a 30-year journey, and I don't want to do that. B, when you raise money,
30 years.
when you raise money too, like you're telling those investors you're going to sell the company, because you're never going to be we're not selling software, right? We're never going to be so profitable to where I can just like distribute our investors dividends. Like that's not going to happen. So how do they get their return? You sell the business. So yeah, that's definitely the goal. So we'll see.
Well, then question, would you have raised, if you were to do it again, would you have raised all that money? Or did you have to raise money? Like, I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are on like raising money and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Owning 50.1% of a business is the exact same as owning 100%. There's no functional difference. All that matters is winning. And if you lose, you lose. Like if you own 100% of a business and you lose, no one gives a fuck. You just lost. So what really matters is winning. And if you can win while owning 50.1% or more, in my mind, that's the best case ever, right? Because if you're smart about raising, like that will supercharge your asset. You will move 2, 3, 4 times faster with that money. And then if you get to that binary win, it doesn't matter. Like you're not going to be like, oh, I could have made like a little bit more if I had raised 1 million less, 3 years ago. And it's like, no one gives a fuck. Like you kept control and you got the binary win. Those are the only two things that matter in consumer goods.
Interesting. And we didn't talk about much of like origin story of the brand and the business and everything too. But like, did you think, because you went to Harvard, you studied psychology and everything too, did you think you'd be owning a bar company?
No, and again, like the bar thing is like happenstance. I didn't grow like in Morristown, New Jersey, sitting in my bedroom on the 3rd floor. I wasn't like daydreaming about protein bars. Like it's just, like I said, I'm an opportunist. And now I want to make something good for the world. I want to improve people's lives. I want to improve society. I want to make real things that I can, go on people's bodies or in people's bodies. Like I want to do my part in improving society. So it's important to me that what I sell is that. Sure. I'm not trying to sell cigarettes. I'm not trying to sell like useless vaporware. Like, but whether that's a bar or like a protein drink or a sunscreen, or like I'm kind of agnostic, to be honest with you.
Sure. And how did you stumble into CPG world? Like, did you want to go into CPG? Did you want to go into tech? Kind of what did you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I sold software to oil and gas companies right out of college, and it was a good job. Like I'm glad I did it, and I learned a lot. I learned what it's like to work at a company, and had bosses. I learned how to work for a boss, and learned that I didn't want to work for a boss. I wanted to be my own boss, and like I think it was great. I'm so glad I didn't jump right into entrepreneurship. I'm so glad I got to see the other side of it. But I also learned I don't like software. Like I don't. Selling a new seat or a license is not like that doesn't make me feel anything inside.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And this is just me, by the way. I'm sure there are many people who that does make them feel something, but I didn't really love oil and gas, to be honest with you. Like it was a very unsexy, sort of interesting, like unconventional, fracking and whatnot. Like it is interesting. It's just it doesn't jazz me up, and I wanted to do my own thing. I always have. So I was like, all right, I'm not a coder. Like it's going to be a consumer good. And ideally, like I would like to make it with my bare hands. And I'm in my apartment. I'm like, well, that kind of narrows it down to food and bev because I can make it right over there in that kitchen. And then I just like, I read a book that changed how I thought about it called Mission in a Bottle, written by the guys who started Honest Tea. Okay. And I emailed the guy and he met with me. And then I was like, got more and more fired up about food and bev. And
Are you still connected with him?
yeah, just sent him an email and he answered. I guessed his email.
Oh, I'm saying, are you still connected with the guy after all these years?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in probably 2 years. I should hit him up. Maybe I'll hit him up
Have
after
mentors
this.
been helpful and everything after all these years?
No,
They haven't been.
no.
Why do you say that?
I think mentorship is like massively overrated.
Okay.
I think vertical mentorship, that is. I would say horizontal mentorship is massively underrated.
What's the difference?
So
No,
me calling someone who's like did what I want to do 6 months ahead of me, or a year ahead of me, or 2 years ahead of me, or we're at the same level, or maybe even they're slightly smaller than me, but they're just better than I am at X, whatever. X might be TikTok shop. It might be selling into Trader Joe's, whatever it is, they're better at me at that than I am. That's horizontal mentorship. Vertical mentorship it's in many cases more harmful than helpful, right? Because it's like an outdated set of knowledge that you then try to apply to current day. That's like the worst thing you could ever do. So yeah, I mean, look, there are evergreen principles. Like accounting is just as useful today as it was 10 years ago. Like there are things that don't change and there are best practices that don't change. But how you make a product, how you achieve product market fit, the channels you go into, how those channels operate and evolve, all of these things rapidly evolve, like on a quarterly basis.
To have more like peer mentors rather than like people who are 10 years ahead of you in a sense.
Yes.
Because they just have on the ground secrets that like are important in a sense.
Yes.
I see how that makes sense, especially with like fast development, like you said, TikTok shop, Amazon, like those things are always changing. So there's guys or girls in the space that know what's working in that moment, and if you're close to them, you can implement that too. I see exactly what you're saying. How are you finding these people too?
LinkedIn, Twitter.
Just shooting a message.
Yeah, or put out content, and they just kind of, it's like a light bulb at night, and fireflies just kind of gather around you. Like that's the beauty of putting out content. You just like find great people. Yeah, and then I mean trade shows. We don't really do shows like that Miami thing I went to. I only did that kind of like as a favor to the guys running it, and because I live in Miami. If I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, like I wouldn't fly out to Miami to do that. Yeah. But like it's like a mile away, right? But I know other people like events way more than I do, and that's how they connect with people. Like that's cool. But yeah, for me, it's mostly digital, and it's kind of funny, right? Like a lot of like my best friends in the industry I met on Twitter or whatever.
Twitter's the spot for all this stuff. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this has been awesome. And like, I usually don't like doing the whole like, oh, tell me how you started the business type of thing, because I think this is the more interesting stuff. Like, what are you doing? Actually, that's another question I do have. Like, very basic question, but I think kind of important, because again, I think people see like the title of this is going to be like $100 million founder or whatever, something like that. And people are going to think, oh, this guy like doesn't do anything all day. I'm curious, like, what do you do actually all day? Like, what is your, like, for example, today, what does your day-to-day look like? Or is it different every single day?
I went to the dentist an hour ago. Other than that, no, I mean like different stuff. It's kind of like if you're familiar with Scrum as an operating model, there's sprints. So all I do is just like sprint after sprint after sprint after sprint, and each sprint is just like a project. So like we partnered with a celebrity chef. That was a sprint. We'd never done it before. Now we got to do it. Like, okay, what are all the subcomponents of that sprint? We have to link up with their PR person. We have to get like the influencer box designed, which means we have to go find a third party to design it and make it. We have to like that's one sprint that I did today. But there's like 10 others, and so I'm like weird in that I have a amorphous like set of responsibilities where my fingers are in like everything a little bit.
Sure.
in the early years, it was a lot of product stuff. Like I actually formulate all the stuff that we make. So I kind of had to teach myself food science, and then just a lot of lab work. And then it's like, then you have to raise money. So now you have a fundraising sprint, and it's like, okay, I got to find these angel investors or find these VCs. And you're just going from sprint to sprint to sprint to sprint. It's kind of schizophrenic in many ways, which I think a lot of people don't like, but I actually love. Like I couldn't do a different job. I couldn't like sit down at a desk and
Sure.
do the same report that I did last week and the week before.
I have a question too. Like, do you ever have a feeling? Because like I feel like a lot of founders feel this, where like they think their business is just gonna like collapse tomorrow. Like it always just feels like it's not like, will it be here next year type of thing. People keep like, I feel like that's like
I thought that for years. I don't feel
Yeah.
that now, but yeah, I had existential fears in years 1 through 5. Year 6, we turned a lot of that's like being not profitable. I mean, we lost $1 million a year for 5 straight years, right? That's stressful.
That's stressful. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, and then we like flipped profitable, and then I was like, I could exhale, and I'm like, like we control our destiny, and that does wonders for your sleep once you're profitable. And then you're just trying to expand that profitability. So I'd say now, like, no, that thought does not happen, but I still freak out about things that go wrong. And I'm like,
Sure.
that can't go wrong. We're too good and too far along to be making those types of mistakes. And it's not existential, but it's like, I'm still a perfectionist for sure.
Oh, 100. And I feel like you have to be, especially in the space you're in. Like every little detail matters. Because like you said, you have to get the bar for $1. So like every little detail.
Well, dude,
matters.
I mean, tariffs.
That's what I'm saying.
Again, no one has that on their bingo card. This person enters office and just creates a global trade war overnight. Like that is the worst thing that could happen to a consumer founder ever. That sucks. Like, but we can't fix it. So, okay, what do we do about it? And it's like, there's another sprint. Like, how do we solve our COGS are going to go up here, here, and here. How do we make it so that they don't? Because we can't afford for them to go up. And then it's like, okay, can we source from over here? Can we renegotiate with a supplier? Like, And we're, let's say, quite lightly exposed. I mean, imagine making hard goods and your cost literally went up 145%. I mean, that
a lot of these stuff's coming from abroad, or they all kind of made in the U.S. Like
no, I mean, it's so agricultural products come from all over, right? So the U.S. doesn't grow coffee. So every cup of coffee you buy everywhere in the U.S. wasn't grown here, right? Other than like maybe a little bit in Hawaii. I think it's 99+% is not grown in the U.S. We don't grow coffee, so that just is what it is. This is why tariffing coffee makes 0 sense. That's not onshoring.
Screws everybody in America.
Yeah. So that's just one example, right? But like, and on the flip side, like almonds. Well, turns out California grows like most of the world's almonds. Great. Like our product, almonds is our #1 ingredient. So great. Like no worries there. But coffee like sucks. So it's a mixed bag. But net like blended out across everything, it's pretty low exposure.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think about like, damn, what if I was making, I don't know, some plastic widget out of China? Like that must be gnarly.
Well, it's funny because like last week you were screwed. This week you're a little less screwed, depending on kind of the day of the week.
Less screwed, but 30%'s
it's still screwed.
30%, right? So I mean, that's still so painful. It's almost like it's like awkwardly painful, right? It's like, could we survive and pay that? Yes. But if it was like 75%, that would have forced us to like move supply to India or whatever. But it's like, I don't know, it's almost like a dangerous level because it's like, could I absorb it? Like kind of.
Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Do I want to take the risk and do it somewhere else? Yeah, it's like, it's just a mess. Yeah. And it's like, this is across obviously every single type of e-commerce, CPG, honestly, like every industry at this point. So Yeah, everyone's dealing with it.
I mean, prices are going up, right? And shelves will be empty. And Walmart just, I think this morning, said they're raising prices on a whole wide variety of things.
Wow.
So,
and if Walmart's raising it, everyone's going to have to raise.
yeah.
Yeah. One last question I had for you. Actually, I'm going to do two because I think they're both relevant. What's some of like the biggest mistakes you think you've made that like have almost ended the company type of thing that you want to share that like you'd be like, hey, if someone's on the same path as me, like don't do this in a sense, or do not have any mistakes and it's just kind of been a rocket ship dumpling every year.
No. I mean, I make mistakes daily. But like big mistakes, I would say like not focusing on the product hard enough. Like
where else were you focusing if you're not focusing on the product?
everything, man. Legal, trademarks, getting a website up, like hiring. Like I was doing everything. I was a one-man show for a year at least. Then I was a two-man show for another 18 months after that. Like, I mean, bare bones. So yeah, I would probably just like, but again, it's like I had to do all those other things. So it's hard for me to say I shouldn't have done them because there was no one else to do it. So, but generally I would say like CPG founders obsess on product too little because like product's all that matters really. Everything else gets easier. Every other metric gets better if the product's better. And I think a lot of people get to like good or pretty good, and it's like, well, if you had just gotten to like great or excellent, you wouldn't have had to raise that third round because you would have had
all the CPA, all the LTV just gets better.
All gets better.
Good. Yeah.
So, and then what was the second part of that?
No, I was literally just asking like, what mistakes you think you made, in a sense.
Yeah. I don't think we've made that many big mistakes. We've made a million small mistakes for sure. I mean, the CVS thing, right? That was a mistake, but it's like, again, I don't know that I wouldn't do it because it got us revenue. Then that revenue helped us raise new money, and like we needed that money, and so I actually wouldn't not do that. But
I'll ask you my second question. The second one is if you were, say, how old were you when you started? 24, 25, 26. If you were 25, 26 right now, and you were thinking about starting a food CPG brand, would you do it or would you not do it? If you would do it, what category would you do it in? And if you wouldn't do it, what would you do instead if you wanted to be an entrepreneur and founder and stuff like that?
Do what you love. I mean, it's like trite, but do what you can be obsessed with. Like we're all obsessed with different things. Some people that's software, some people that's like food or bad. Like do the right thing to do is the thing you can do 16 hours a day for 5 years straight. So, but yeah, I mean, would I do it now? I mean, it's very hard now. Like if I'm being honest, it's harder now by quite a bit than it was when I started in 2018. Largely because access to capital is harder and there's just not that much appetite for early stage brands that are going to be unprofitable for 2-3 years. I mean, again, we lost $1 million for 5 years. So those early investors were underwriting, hey, this guy like says he's going to do something. I don't know if he really will. And he's going to lose $5 million like along the way. I don't know. Like they're just, they're just betting on you, of course. So there's not that many investors out there now for food and bev. But I don't know, like and entrepreneurs are crazy. If you're going to start, you're going to start no matter what. So categories I like, I would say I would think really hard and long about form factor.
Okay.
So, and I know, like we make bars and powders are way better for a variety of reasons.
You have powders now too.
Yeah. And it's just like higher margin. And now the flip side is because it's a lower barrier to entry, you have way more competition. And so there's gives and takes to all of this. But generally speaking, I would try and find like not a mega trend, but like a moderate trend. So colostrum would be an example. Like, is it a mega trend? We don't know, but it's definitely like a trend. and I would try and find that like a year before it really popped off, and I would go hard after it online, and then I would try and go omni-channel really quick. I think a mistake a lot of these folks make is they just keep trying to ride that like online train, whether it's D2C or Amazon or both. It's like, no, you should be pushing into omni-channel earlier, get all your learnings, establish the retailer relationships, and be like the creatine or colostrum or zinc or whatever like the thing is. Be that early player for those retailers, help educate them on it, and then you're going to have such a more durable business while everyone else is like focusing on ecom. Well, now you have a way more diverse, by the way, you have a much better asset. Like, acquirers don't want D2C businesses, like, period, end of sentence. Like, in 2025 they want omni-channel businesses. Why? Because it's de-risked. Like, they're working backwards from risk.
Yep.
And by the way, all the acquirers are brick and mortar first. So they're thinking like, if I don't know if you can work in brick and mortar, like, why would I take a flyer on you? Like, I'll just go buy this guy who already is proven out in both online and brick and mortar, and I'll just supercharge his or her brick and mortar business.
It's like that brand. I think it was recently came out, like that Dwight and Co. Dwight and Goods buying.
What, Dwight and Church buying Touchland?
Yeah, Touchland. Yeah, like you look like very little e-commerce D2C.
And they just rip in like Sephora and Ulta and
and like 50% like to the bottom line in a sense too.
Yeah, 55 million in EBITDA.
Yeah,
insane. I think it was like 150 in revenue, 55 million in EBITDA. It's just insane. But yeah, that is a brick and mortar business. And the acquirer is looking at that revenue as more durable revenue, because it is more durable revenue. Like, they've secured their place on that shelf. They turn at a certain volume, like velocity, and they're just gonna keep turning. Like, they don't have to go buy more meta ads to acquire new customers. Like, those customers are walking in that door and buying that thing. So that's not to poo-poo the ecom side. Like, again, half our business is ecom, but it's just, I would think more omni-channel sooner if I was a young CPG entrepreneur.
I think that's a good way to wrap this up. Like, I think the biggest learnings here is omni-channel is very important, and do it sooner than later. Don't try to do it 3-4 years down the road. Just do it from the beginning if you can.
Yep.
Just learn a whole bunch and try to double your business every year for 6 years. You said how many years?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah. No, I've loved this conversation. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share or chat about, but I'm all good. Yeah. Do you want people to find you, or you don't want anyone finding you?
No, you can go to IQBAR.com. That's where you can find all our stuff, or Amazon or Costco, Walmart, Target, etc. And yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you coming on such short notice too. So it's been great. Yeah, for all our subscribers too. We've been gone for 3 months, so I'm happy that we're able to knock this one out. And I think this was actually a very interesting one, where the world is transitioning, or it has been transitioning over the last few years from D2C focus to more omni-channel focus. I think this was a really good conversation to have on that. But for everyone who does watch, please always like, comment, subscribe. Go find Will online. Go buy some IQBARs, and see you guys in the next one. Appreciate it. Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
Peace.